This is going to be a movie someday. And when you watch this movie in the future, if you didn't live through this period of history, you will think a lot of the stuff is just written to be dramatic. You'll think that this character, President Trump, is someone that was exaggerated. This is all real. This is happening in real time. Letitia James, all these people that went after Donald Trump, we're finding out that they had a lot of skeletons in their closets. I don't understand how you could be a national figure going after the former president of the United States at that time. He was the former president, and have all this dirt that you're doing yourself. This is glorious. And two things can be true at the same time. As I always say, if it's a revenge tour, then hey, it's a revenge tour. But if they've actually committed crimes and they're being picked up during the revenge tour, then it's all good.
Look at what he's doing right now, for example, with Tish James. Look at what he's doing with Adam Schiff. And I'm going to make another bold prediction here on
a lot of predictions at 8 o'clock in the morning.
There's a lot of predictions. Here, take these notes, because mark my words, politically, they're both doomed. All right? I'm telling you right off the bat, this is a political suicide for both Tish James and Adam Schiff.
More of a political homicide.
Well, yeah, but how are they going to be? How are they politically doomed if Senator Schiff comes from a blue state? Attorney General Tish James is here in a blue state. They are elected by the people. How?
Hold up, is he wearing nail polish? He's wearing nail polish. Maybe you guys knew that, but I just noticed he's wearing nail polish, and white nail polish at that. Crazy.
How are they doomed politically?
It'll be gerrymander. It will end up being somehow. They will end up being held
races.
Yes, but they will also be held accountable. Mark my words. They will be held accountable
for the
crimes that they are now looking at. That's Ed Martin who's looking at him. And I know so many people are going to say, "Oh my God, Michael Cohen is like bending the knee to Trump." No. What I'm doing is I'm actually telling you the reality. We could talk to each other all day long, and we can say, oh, I have 1 million followers, you have 1 million followers. It's the same million followers. 77 million Americans ended up voting for Trump. Mark my words, Ed Martin, the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, they will figure out exactly how to go after Adam Schiff, how to go after Tish James for these mortgage violations, and they
alleged mortgage violations.
Alleged, correct, and they will be held accountable. That's my next prediction here.
Have you noticed when it's things that are against the people that they align with, it's alleged, but when it's things against anyone else, they'll forget to say the word alleged when it's against Trump or when it's against the Republican. Either way, it should be alleged, because either way, you're innocent until proven guilty. But they speak about the allegations when it's Trump as if they're already proven facts, and as if just the allegation in and of itself warrants us viewing it as a guilty verdict. Whereas with the people that they align with, it's alleged, and this is just being made up. This is a political hit job. This is a right-wing talking point. This is where you know that they're in the tank. They're in the tank for one side. There's no objectivity. There's no analysis. There's no journalisming. Yeah, there's none of that. You just know that they're just trying to push an agenda. And it's so sad. It's so, so sad.
Here on your show. And I know that I'm right, because if there is a signing of a box which is wrong, and trust me, I know, I went to prison. One of my charges was on my HELOC. I had a low mortgage onto it. I had 80% equity. They held me accountable for a HELOC violation. Theirs is much worse. And
boom, I'm so glad he said that. I'm so glad he said that, because this is a point that a lot of people miss. If you have done something wrong, you've done something wrong. He went to jail for doing something that a lot of people do. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying a lot of people do it. And if you are in the political line of fire and there's a reason for people to really enforce these laws, they will. But I guess one of the differences with Trump is on one of the cases, the one with Letitia James, it was a civil case that they made into a federal case. No one was harmed. He allegedly overinflated the value of the property, which most people would look at Mar-a-Lago and say, yeah, it is worth a lot of money, a lot more than they were saying that it's worth. the banks got paid back and continue to do business with him. But if they want to make that a case, they can make that a case. Equally, if she's made an error, and I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that it was an error, it's still something that she's culpable for. So she can't just make the excuse, well, I made an error and this is a hit job. If you've done something wrong, you've done something wrong. He went to jail for doing something wrong. And I'm not saying that she should go to jail, she being Letitia James, but I'm just saying that the idea that, you know, she is above being even looked into is just ridiculous.
Rest assured, allegedly. Right. So let's go one step even further here. When you have the courts on your side as well, what chance do you have of success? It's why I turn around and I say, doomed.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That was pretty amazing. Okay. Those MSNBC soy boys, you can tell they were in disbelief. They're like, we can't believe that Michael Cohen is dropping a little bit of truth serum here on MSNBC, something that's rare, right? Truth on MSNBC, extremely rare, where he basically says that, yeah, these aren't nothing burger crimes here, right? Allegations. Like, some of the stuff these people have been accused of is worse than what Michael Cohen got convicted of. Like, for example, bank fraud, right? Misleading banks about the value of his assets to obtain loans. Yeah, to me, sounds kind of like what Adam Schiff and Letitia James did, right? When you talk about these mortgage fraud allegations, you're talking about misrepresenting whether your home is a primary or a secondary home, whether you actually live in a home in order to obtain favorable loan terms, right? When you talk about getting federal loans. Yeah, I mean, we've had regular, normal people convicted for some of the same things, if not lesser things than what Letitia James and Adam Schiff alleged.
I guess if I'm being fair and if I'm being consistent and being a principled person, I think they need to review this whole thing for senators and Congress people who are going to naturally be spending a lot of time outside of their district and may have a family, the rest of their family that lives in their district. So they're spending most of their time in DC. Their family home is in whatever their district is. We need to be looking at that because it just makes sense that they shouldn't be penalized because these are politicians that are public servants. So whether you agree with the politics or not, and this is the thing that I try to do, call balls and strikes. Whether you agree with their politics or not, the idea is they go to Washington, D.C. to represent their district. So if they're there most of the time, they're going to need a residence there, but then their main residence may just be, you know, back in their district. It just makes sense. You don't want to, you might have 3 kids, one's in high school, one's in middle school, one's in college, and you're not going to uproot your whole family and bring them to Washington, D.C., especially when you might only be there for a term. So something needs to be done. It does need to be more transparent and it needs to be above board, and it shouldn't be done in a way that they're building property wealth, but equally, they shouldn't be penalized for having to maintain 2 households.
Allegedly did, right? But again, according to the same people who claim that nobody's above the law, all of a sudden when it comes to Democrats breaking the law, now all of a sudden they are walking that back, right? All of a sudden now it seems as if what they really meant is that nobody's above the law except Democrats, because for whatever reason, MSDNC hates the idea of Democrats being held accountable for their crimes. Again, it's funny how that works. I want to react to another group of individuals who also hate accountability, which are black liberals, okay? Roland Martin show where these people are going to boohoo, whine, and cry racism over the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ investigating Letitia James and also Adam Schiff as well, too. So let's get into it.
Here's that Republicans, Biden weaponized the DOJ. Nobody has weaponized the DOJ and the federal government like Donald Trump the first time and now this time. They are gross, disrespectful, shameful hypocrites.
Well, yes, but you're dealing with a criminal enterprise here, to quote our brother, Dr. Greg Carr. This is exactly what it is. This is stuff out of totalitarian dictatorship country. So you have Donald Trump, who's upset about the civil lawsuit that Tish James filed against him.
Well, of course he's upset. Wouldn't you be upset if someone filed a lawsuit against you over something that you don't feel you did wrong. Potentially other people were involved. You never signed the check. And it was grossly overstated and overcharged. Even some Democrat legal scholars said that it was overcharged. It should never have gone to court. So of course he's upset. This makes sense.
For when it came to his taxes and stating the values of properties, and that information actually came from Michael Cohen. When Michael Cohen testified in front of Congress before he went to prison, inflating the values of properties to get loans, to deflating the values of properties when it comes time to, pay taxes, things of this nature. So she wins that lawsuit. Trump owes about $500 million now in that lawsuit. So now they come up with this type of investigation dealing with a mortgage and then also claiming that Tish James violated Donald Trump's civil rights. If this is not the height of caucasity, because you got Donald Trump violating black people's civil rights, you had Donald Trump, his second day in office, revoked affirmative action, Executive Order 11246, trampling on black people's civil rights. And then now they want to claim that Tish James violated his civil rights. So this is more of the white grievance coming from the Trump administration. This is what they're doing. They refashioned the civil rights department in.
I'm not sure if anybody here is old enough to remember, but there was a skit on Living Color. So Living Color was a show that was on in the 90s, I believe. But this is where Jim Carrey, a lot of other comedians, Jamie Foxx, they got their break. But there was this thing where Damon Wayans did the educated brother, and he just used all these big words because the totalitarianism of the structure was equal to the circumference of the hat that I was wearing, like that type of stuff. That's who this guy reminds me of. I'm just like, as soon as I heard him start talking, I was like, this guy is that guy. Listen, again, the argument can be that she broke the law. The argument can be that there is a law that's on the books that people can invoke if they feel that their civil rights have been violated. How is that an abuse of the law if the law is on the books, especially if you're arguing that the laws that were on the books and altered in order to go after Trump in this particular case in New York? If you're saying that that was justified, then the other one is justified. Either they're both frivolous or they're both justified. One can't be justified and the other one be frivolous.
And like in the Department of Justice, to focus on white grievance, things of this nature. And this is something Donald Trump campaigned on. So this is more nonsense. So hopefully Tish James is successful in this. Hopefully Adam Schiff is successful. But I just got to say this. I don't mean to be petty, but I bet Adam Schiff is maybe regretting jumping out and calling for Joe Biden to drop out of the race. Because remember, Senator Adam Schiff was jumping on MSNBC saying that Joe Biden should drop out of the race after the bad debate and the poll numbers and things like this. He may be regretting that now.
All right. So I think that Roland Martin has severely decreased the quality of his guests, right, that he brings on. Not that they were great, high-quality people in the first place, but wow, he's really digging in the bottom of the barrel here, right, when it comes to guests. First and foremost, Trump has not taken away any civil rights from black people. That affirmative action is not a civil right. Okay, you don't have a right as a black person to get preferential treatment based off your race. Okay, we have this thing called the Equal Protection Clause, right? Again, we're supposed to be treating everybody equally in this country, right? Which is clearly something that black liberals don't want. Also, on top of that, furthermore, notice how these people, right, when they talk about Letitia James and the allegations against her, whether that's on CNN, whether that's on MSNBC, any of these liberal news outlets, notice how they never get into the details. They just talk about it from the perspective of Trump is weaponizing the system, not from the perspective of whether or not she actually committed a crime.
Because it doesn't matter to them. The whole point is it doesn't matter to them. All they're worried about is the fact that she's being targeted by their enemy. So their enemy is going after her for doing a thing which it looks like on paper she definitely did it. Like, it looks like on paper there was something that wasn't quite right. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, because allegedly, well, not allegedly, she sent a text message to the mortgage broker in full, all caps, saying, "This will not be my primary residence," although she signed documentation to the contrary. So, there's something there. And they don't care, though. It's as with a lot of these cases, they could know that the person is guilty, and they'll even say it sometimes. I don't care if they're guilty. It's just they're being targeted because they're black. They're being targeted because Trump is a racist. So they don't really care. I prefer when they're at least honest about it and say the thing out loud, because it's always quite obvious that that's the case.
That, right? They're not saying that at all because they can't argue against the actual evidence. They're not bringing up the evidence. They're not actually really trying to discuss the reasons why she's facing these investigations.
Folks, before I go to Raven, Tish James, she addressed these attacks on her, and she says, Donald, I ain't scared of your ass.
My mission can I just say, right, before I go into that, can I just say, I feel okay, because if you look at Roland Martin's set right there, and I'm not dissing him, I'm just saying, it makes me feel good that, this man who's got way more money than me, his set is about on par with mine. And I know he's not in his studio or whatever, but I've made I've done my best to make my set look good. But like, he's just like in his front room in his green chair, and he's doing his thing. Listen, if you want to go online, let me just give you some advice. I don't have a huge channel, but just do it. Don't wait until you have everything right. If you look at some of my older videos, the quality is not there. And even this, the quality might not be amazing, but just do it. Don't wait for anybody to tell you that you can do it. Just get it up and running and talk and provide entertainment, and the right people will watch. That's just a bit of encouragement. That's something completely different to my reaction.
Donald, I ain't scared of your ass.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation.
Sorry to keep interrupting, but why do a lot of these black politicians always have to have that cadence of if they're in church, and the whole, dramatic pauses and the, just talk, right? And don't try to get us emotionally wound up about the thing that you're saying. Just spit the facts. I can take the facts and I can then decide or determine if I agree with what you're saying. But this whole church thing is just, it bothers me, because most of them, their behaviors or their action do not align with anything that I know about Christianity. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm just saying, like, don't try to do this. Well, the righteous people, and, don't try to do that. Just do what you do and do it well. And don't keep trying to lean on this religious thing. And this is one of the problems in the black community, is that the black church has been complicit in a lot of the democratic movements and the things that the Democrats have done to probably, I would say, hold a lot of black people back, because you have these black pastors who will allow the platform, the church, to be used as a political rally, which I don't agree with. And unless you're going to have both sides. Now, what I would agree with, have Trump and have Biden in your church and sit down and have a conversation. I think that's good. I think that would reflect Christian values, but you can't just have Biden up in there or just have just Trump up in there, because then it becomes a political rally, because neither of them, in my view, are what I would consider to be Christians.
In this country, I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until I speak about.
Doesn't she kind of look like Biggie Smalls? Like, she has the eye thing going. And again, I'm not being mean. I'm just looking at it. And I was like, who does she look like? Because one of the eyes is going one way and one of her eyes seems like it's going another way. I'm not sure if she has an issue. If she has like a medical condition, I apologize. I'm not aware of it. If it's just that when she's talking, she has a wandering eye, and then I think I can mention it because it is an observation. It's not an attack.
By the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies, it's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
Letitia James ain't going nowhere but to jail, right? She going to jail. I really do think they're going to get her, bro. I really do think there's no way. I think there's no way over the next 4 years they're letting Letitia James continue to walk unscathed, right? I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it, man. I just don't. I'm just telling you right now. I think her days, okay, not facing accountability are numbered, okay? I'm telling you, the Trump DOJ, I think they're going to get her, right? I'm with Michael Cohen on this one. I think that they're definitely going to be held accountable, 100%.
Raven, the shortened version of that is Donald Trump. Bring your ass.
Nobody can convince me that Roland Martin is straight, bro. Not at this point. Not as much as
he's always saying stuff like that, and Greg Foreman is always roasting him about that. But Roland, you need to stop telling men to bring their behinds, because it's just not a good look. It's not a good look.
Dude seems to like talking about asses, right? I mean, what's up with Roland Martin and ass? I mean, look at his face, bro. Look at his face at the thought of Trump's ass. I mean, has anybody seen a man get so excited about talking about another man's ass as Roland Martin, right? He just has an obsession with it for whatever reason.
You say what we say at home. So you're right. When you're sitting opposite of Scott Jennings, you got to jump in his ass. You got to jump in his ass. Jump in his ass. His ass. You got to push back immediately. Jump in his ass.
Yeah, ain't no way this dude is straight. I'm telling you, no way. No way.
I'm so here for the energy. Yes. I mean, let's call this what it is, right? Trump is mad that a highly qualified, highly accomplished, no nonsense Black woman held him to account for his gross misconduct. It's really that simple.
I don't know who this Raven Schwamm Curtis is. I'm going to Google her after. And I do reactions, so I don't watch everything and do all the research in advance, because I think the reaction is what it's about. That's a different kind of thing than doing political analysis. But I've noticed that some of the most rabid liberals who are super opposed to systematic racism, etc., most of them are mixed race. Like, if you look at it, think about it. Like, you had the football player guy, what was his name? The knee, you know who I'm talking about. So many of the BLM ladies, all of them, I don't know what it is. Is it that when they were growing up as mixed race people, they kind of felt like a lot of mixed race people do feel they're not Black enough to be Black, and they're not white enough to be white. And then they just say, you know what, I'm going to go all in on everything that happens in my life being racist. And then they start these organizations, because I'll look into it, but I don't think she's like fully Black. And that, there's no problem. I don't have an issue with that. But I'm just saying, if you look at the people that seem to have the most issues, quite often they're dual heritage. And for me, then what do you do with that? Like, if you are, have a Black parent and a white parent, and then you're railing against white people, that's half of your family. That's grandparents. That's people who love you, grew up with you, and took care of you. And then you just take this position. I don't know. Again, you can put it in the comments. I might be wrong. But looking at her and looking at that picture in the background, she doesn't look like she is all Black. And it seems to be it just seems to be a pattern that I've recognized.
We've seen that he clearly thinks he's above the law. He thinks that he can be a king in a country where we don't do kings. He thinks that he can just be out here defying Supreme Court order rulings and attacking his political opponents like he's above reproach or critique. And she's saying that's not going to fly. And I'm so here for it. I really think Trump's response in this situation is like if misogynoir, toxic masculinity, and like white fragility had a baby. Like that is emblematic of how he's moving in this situation. And you know what his response also tells me? He thinks that criminality can't map onto him. And I think this is really just reflective of how people think about criminality within the context of the United States.
I sometimes find it hard to follow when people talk like that and they use certain, not that I don't have an extensive vocabulary, but she sounds like an academic who is used to talking to academics instead of talking to regular people. And that kind of like there's like this elitism in that, because I've been around people like that. I have family members who are really highly educated, etc. Love them. But sometimes when you hear them talk or when you read what they've written, you're like, what? There must have been an easier way to say the thing that you're saying.
Criminality from the top down is seen as the status quo. Criminality from the bottom up is seen as criminality as opposed to resistance, right? And he really thinks he's above the law. He thinks he's above reproach. And she's saying, no, that's not the case. It's not going to fly, and you're going to be held to account. And I hope that we can all rally behind her to make sure that
Valentine's Day a year ago, roses are red, violets are blue. No one's above the law, even when you think the rules don't apply to you. Happy Valentine's Day. She, of course, referring to Donald Trump. Our next guest using that tweet against her. No one is above the law, even when you think the rules don't apply to you. Letitia James.
I was thinking about Colin Kaepernick. That's who I was thinking about. I just Googled it. So that's who I was thinking about.
Congressman and Florida gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds is with us. Congressman, it's great to see you. Pretty ironic. Karma, payback, revenge, all of them apply here. Do you think the DOJ actually charges her?
Well, look, if it's clear that she violated the law and she was committing mortgage fraud, not to mention, as I understand it, if you're going to be the New York Attorney General, how are you claiming that you live in another state? That just doesn't work. And
Can I say, and I said it before, and it's on tape. You'll have the receipts. This is the dude that should have been vice president. Like, I really think that Trump should have picked Byron Donalds for vice president. When you hear him speak, when you hear him engage, even when he's on those shows where they're coming at him and he's by himself, he's able to do it in a way with a swag that very few other people can do it. And then the other thing that he has, like when he goes up against Jasmine Crockett, because, you know, she came for him, like he completely just destroyed her. She doesn't want to debate him. When he's in certain situations, because a lot of the people on the media, a lot of the anchors are either white female or white male, a lot of the attacks that they level against like J.D. Vance or level against Trump or any white male Republican, like they can't level that in that way, the same way against Byron Donalds. And he's from Brooklyn. This is the other thing. Like he has this thing. He has like that New York thing that like, if you've ever been around someone that's from New York, like grew up Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, there's just this thing. There's like this swag. But he's very polished. He's very articulate. He knows his facts. He has a finance background. However, what I think probably happened, apparently, from what I read, he had a case when he was younger. And so maybe when they were doing the vetting, they were like, you know what, it's going to be too much political heat. We'll go for J.D. Vance. Or potentially it was always the plan that he'd run for governor. He's still young. So the good thing is he's still young. He's not too tightly tethered to Donald Trump that if there's any issues, it's going to drag him down. You know, in another 8 years, 12 years, whatever, especially if he becomes governor of Florida, he has the experience, he has the name recognition because he was one of the, I think, shortlisted people for vice president. So we'll just see what happens over the next couple of years. Hopefully he'll win for governor in Florida now that DeSantis is not going to be able to run. And I think DeSantis is going to be endorsing his wife or whatever. I've gone off a little bit, but Byron Donalds, I like Byron Donalds. I've seen him engage in some tough conversations and he keeps his composure, but he always knows how to get his point across.
Things pan out to be true, she should be charged. She was quick to charge Donald Trump, saying that he put fraudulent information on a loan application Well, that's what she's accused of doing right now. And she also accused Donald Trump of saying that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. I mean, we all know that was just stupid and a lie. So if they go through their investigation and they find evidence, probable cause, that she was committing mortgage fraud for her own benefit, of course she should be charged. That's the way our system of
And the other
justice
thing I
works.
should say about Byron Donalds, he always looks like he just came from the barber. Like he always looked like he just got the edge up. And he is like, if you look at the men on the right, so your Byron Donalds, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, I could go down the line. Look at the men on the right, even the black men. And then look at the men on the left. Like, if you look at what masculinity should be, like, I'm not talking about what they call toxic masculinity. I'm talking about strong men, leaders, people who will speak their mind. You may not agree with them, but they will say what they think. Like, you look at Hakeem Jeffries. Like, when you see, I'm going to do a video on him. When you see him in interviews, he does not sound compelling. He's not charismatic. He's the leader of the Democratic Party in the sense that he's the speaker, whatever he is. You know what I'm talking about. He's the minority leader. That's what he is. But he just doesn't have that thing. They call him like a bargain Obama and all that stuff. And I'm not into the name calling, but it's true. But when you hear Byron Donalds, even Tim Scott's not as good as Byron Donalds. But again, it's people that at least speak with conviction. So do that. And this is one of the reasons why the Democratic Party is losing men. Because men, especially young men, they want to see masculine men. They want to see men who are strong, men who have character, men who would lead you in a war. You don't want someone that's going to run the other way or say they were in a war and they actually weren't.
It all happened in 2023. So that's when she falsified these records, allegedly. And that was the same year she put Donald Trump on trial. Do you have any concerns about her being married to her father? Is that something we need to look into?
Listen, I think everybody's got concerns about that one. That's just not something that everybody thinks is cool. I don't. It's just weird, to quote a former person running for the vice presidency that we won't talk about. But look, at the end of the day, this is what happens. You have these officials who want to go on these witch hunts while at the same time they're doing dirt behind the shadows. In the shadows. It's simply wrong. She should be held accountable like anybody else.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated.
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely
That's going to put me to sleep. But basically what that is during the court case about Trump, they were essentially saying, can you name a time when this type of case has been brought against someone ever? Someone that has paid the loan back. It's not like the claimant was the bank. The bank was cool. They want to keep doing business with him. So this whole thing was embellished for the purpose of trying to be able to call Donald Trump a felon. And it backfires every single time. If you go down the list of all the people that tried to find something to prevent Trump from being president again, all of them are in hot water themselves. Fani Willis, all of them. And some of them, it wasn't even instigated by Donald Trump. Some of them, they just slipped on their own banana peel because they were so busy rejoicing about the fact that, yes, we're going to be the ones that go down in history for stopping this person, this wannabe dictator from becoming president. All of them ended up getting themselves in trouble. And so this is one of those situations where you just look at it and you know on the face that they were trying to find something. But I will say this, and please hear me out on this one. This is a man that every political system, judicial system, the FBI potentially was trying to find something on him, something that would prevent him from being president. Now, follow me on this. because this is, to me, quite a compelling argument, but I could be wrong. Please put it in the comments. Of all the things they could have found on a man who's been doing business for 30, 40 years in New York as a property developer, the things that they found on him was, one, probably cheating on his wife, two, overstating the value of his property, which most real estate experts would say, no, Mar-a-Lago is worth that. Three, a bad phone call. Four, like all the stuff that they found isn't really that big a deal. Maybe he did break the law, and I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he didn't. But you would have thought that as evil as they say he is, they'd have found some big stuff on him. That's why in my other video, I was saying this whole Epstein thing, I think he's trolling them, because the Democrats had the Epstein information for years. And if there had been anything in there that would have been able to bring Donald Trump down, they would have brought that to the public. So I'm pretty convinced there's nothing in there that's going to implicate Donald Trump. I think there's a lot of powerful people that will be implicated in there, but I just don't think that there's anything in there meaningful about Donald Trump, because if there was, they'd already brought that out. Anyway, that's it for me. Make sure that you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you keep watching. And if you watch this for 1 minute, 2 minutes, make sure you subscribe, because it lets that YouTube algorithm know that what I'm saying is a little bit of interest to a few people. This is a really small channel, so your subscriptions would mean a whole lot to me. Your comments, even your bad ones, I will try my best to respond to. As I said, I do these reactions just like straight up. I don't watch the stuff first. I kind of scan through it to make sure there's nothing too crazy in there, but I just do the reactions, share my thoughts. Sometimes I get things wrong. Sometimes I can't remember people's names, like Colin Kaepernick when I was trying to make that point. But I do my best just to bring a nuanced view, give you a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at things, and hopefully put you in a position where you can make a decision for yourself and your family, that you're not just taking in information from one angle or one source and taking that, digesting it, and forming an opinion. It's always good to hear the opposing view, which is why sometimes I might say things you don't like, because I might say, yeah, Biden really got that one right, or Fani Willis really got that one right. I'm not saying that, because I don't think she got much of anything right, but I will always defend what's right. I will never defend the indefensible. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share this with anybody who you feel might enjoy it. And I appreciate you watching, and I'll be doing another video tomorrow. Make sure you check out some of my shorts and some other stuff that I put together. Hopefully you'll find